It starts with a remote. That plastic rectangle living beside the dust, hiding quietly between couch cushions, or slipped under a baby toy that rolled under the console mid-scene. You press it, and the world bends. A flicker, a glow, walls become windows, living rooms, theaters, and for a moment, you forget you're still in sweatpants. TVs, they've become something more than just a screen. They're memory machines, echo chambers, mood setters, but only if they really work. And that's where things start to get complicated, because no matter how much they shine in showrooms, it's you who has to live with their glitches. The faint hum at night, the ghosting in motion, the 35-page menu to fix one setting that won't stay fixed. What if I told you some of the top-tier, AI-powered, Ultra-OLED, quantum something giants are failing homes where it matters most? Not on spec sheets, not in marketing reels, but in real life. This isn't tech made for techies anymore. It's tech breathing into family rooms, bedrooms, dorms, empty apartments lit by the flicker of a rainy movie night. That's why today, we're not just ranking TVs, we're revealing what the brands won't, the worst, to the best, and what you should really avoid in 2026. But first, a question. When did decision-making become this exhausting? Every year, homes get smarter. There are now over 47 different 4K models launched this year alone, all claiming they redefine the viewing experience. But the problem? They don't redefine it for you. They redefine it for marketing, for the showroom floor, for a product shot aimed to impress, not to last, and they hope you don't notice. You see, in this industry, clarity is sacrificed for confusion, because confusion is profit. It's not about helping you choose the right one. It's about making sure you're scared to choose the wrong one. So you spend more, you overthink, you delay, you default to what's popular. And that's where the trap begins. Let me show you which brands you need to avoid first, right now, in 2026. This isn't a scare list, it's a survival guide. On N, the disappearing picture. At first glance, it looks like every other TV, sleek, symmetrical, bright, but 2 weeks in, you realize something strange. The sharpness, gone. The blacks, washed. And every time you switch HDMI inputs, the interface freezes for just 5 seconds. Not enough to complain, too much to ignore. If you just want something at the lowest price, maybe, just maybe, this has a place. But in 2026, On-N feels like buying time, instead of buying tech. Don't say we didn't warn you. On-N Midavlik. Hisense. Stunning specs, stressful experience. Hisense came in heavy this year. Quantum ULED, mini LED contrast zones. Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos, every checkbox, checked, until you spend your first Sunday trying to calibrate motion smoothing off again. You see, with Hisense in 2026, it's all there on paper, but the actual reality is a series of compromises disguised as features. Some models overheat, others crash midstream, and in more than one review, a user described it as a TV that turns on perfectly, streams perfectly, until you accidentally breathe. Sometimes, powerful specs create more ways to break. Vizio. When updates break more than they fix. One update, that's all it takes. A smooth, stable TV becomes a glitching mess of failed app logins, remote lags, and menu resets. Vizio made waves years ago, but in 2026, it's like they're still balancing on that same outdated surfboard. HDR modes still flicker in and out. Some sets literally forget your sleep timer settings. And their SmartCast OS, let's just say, it's not always so smart. Yet some people still buy it because it looks good before you plug it in. But afterward, you'll spend more time Googling problems than watching shows. Right now, maybe you're sitting in your living room scrolling, TV humming in the background, kid resting beside you, the soft echo of a soundtrack bleeding into another room. This is where these devices live, in the real house. So our standards shouldn't come from keynote stages or ad banners floating across websites. Our standards should come from moments like this. Because the truth is, not all failures are dramatic. Some are just quiet enough to stay under the radar for just long enough, until you realize you've spent $800 to make your evening slightly worse. 7. TCL, the golden middle, with cracks. TCL has become the default for decent and affordable, solid panels, better than expected basics, and in 2026, they've doubled down on their value-first strategy. But sometimes, good enough isn't enough. Take the 6 series. Beautiful blacks one night, weird blooming the next. Screens feel fantastic, right until you switch from Netflix to live sports and start noticing jagged motion you can't unsee. And that's the catch. TCL gives you 90% of what premium TVs offer, but that last 10%, it's always just out of reach. Like a door that almost closes, like a song that fades too fast. It's the TV you recommend to friends with a budget, but not one you'd vouch for during a quiet Sunday when the weather's stormy and the lighting's dim, when the experience matters most. LG. Great, almost always. LG is like that student who gets 90 on every test. Reliable, talented, predictable. But in 2026, that predictability feels stale. Yes, OLED has returned stronger. Yes, the C3 and G3 sets are quietly stunning. But there's a growing gap between what LG advertises and how their mid-range models perform for everyday people. Their WebOS recently had a redesign, and not in a good way. Too many ads, too many cards, too much pretending to be a streaming hub when all we want is TV. And then there's the burn-in fear. Still lingering, still whispered about. Even if rare, it's there, like a smudge on a clean window. For every masterful frame, there's a tiny tangle, a remote delay, a stutter in app switching, a frustrating voice command that fails. LG is good, very good. But in a year flooded with extraordinary claims, very good sometimes, gets left behind. Samsung, peak engineering. With tiny echoes of ego, Samsung makes TVs you want to stare at in a showroom forever. No one denies the beauty. Their QD OLED in 2026 is in some ways breathtaking. A masterclass in light, color, contrast. But there's something missing behind the gloss. You realize it when you first try to find a simple setting, buried 3 layers deep in a stylized menu. You realize it again when your TV insists that its new AI picture mode knows better than you do. And then there's Tizen, powerful but cluttered. Samsung is a brand built on brilliance, but sometimes brilliance hides a kind of arrogance. It's as if the TV looks at you and says, "I'm not built for comfort. I'm built for control." That may work for some, but for homes that crave ease, warmth, immediacy, it can feel like buying a spaceship when all you needed was a fireplace. Outside the window, it's raining. Your old dog has curled himself back into your lap. A rerun plays in the background, filling the room not with novelty, but familiarity. This is when a TV ceases to be a product and becomes part of the rhythm of your life. It shouldn't feel like work. It shouldn't feel complicated. That's why we're moving now into the top tiers, the ones that almost got it all right. Almost. Let's pause the ranking for just a breath to look at the moments that matter. Because it's not just about black levels or refresh rates. It's about the quiet hour when the baby's finally asleep and you whisper scroll into a documentary that unexpectedly makes you cry. It's that late night deep into season 4 with your partner, where no one moves, not for snacks, not for anything, because the episode just got that good. A great TV disappears when needed and shows up when wanted. Everything else is noise. Sony, a phantom of excellence. Sony has a reputation older than most of our setups. In 2026, they still deliver picture quality that can humble almost anything else in the room. XR chips, panel finesse, cinematic truth. But in real homes, their flaws grow louder. Remote control design feels 5 years late, system startup lags, software updates that delay simple usability. It's all small stuff, until it isn't. Sony's Bravia line will absolutely make your movies look like they were projected in secret film rooms in Paris. But if your kid grabs the wrong HDMI port during a game night, it might take rebooting the OS to fix the input lag. There's genius here, but also ego. Sony designs like a brand crafting TVs for cinema purists, not for single moms who just want Bluey to load right away at 6 a.m. And that's the tension. Philips, the ambient master, in a competitive storm. Philips is underrated. If you've never watched Ambilight in a dark room with spa music humming in the background, you haven't fully unwound. That's their genius. But 2026's Philips models still struggle to stay in the conversation, not because they're lacking, but because competitors are stealing their shine. OS can feel clunky, support takes forever, and firmware updates often arrive after the problems have lingered too long. Still, if your nights are meditative, if your walls were meant to glow, Philips feels like lighting a candle on your wall with sound. But it won't be for everyone. Here's the thing. TVs in 2026 live in a contradiction. Artificial intelligence selects your colors. Voice assistants await your every command. Some sets even follow your eyes now, reading the way you watch. But some remotes still use AA batteries. The future isn't seamless yet. It's progress hidden in fine print. It's evolution, often led by assumption, not intention. That's why these rankings aren't just about features. They're about feel, how the TV feels to live with. Not just at its best, but at its average. Not just during first impressions, but on the 86th day, when the settings still hold, and the screen still talks to you like it did on day 1. Up next, the final 2. And the one TV brand that, against all odds, created something invisibly brilliant this year. Panasonic, the whispering workhorse. They don't scream in ads. They don't stuff your menus with bloat. They just work. Panasonic isn't perfect, but they don't pretend to be. And in 2026, that honesty feels like an upgrade. Color science that whispers its elegance. Designs that stay out of the way. A UI that just loads, waits, obeys. Sometimes, it's the things that don't call for attention that silently earn your trust. Yes, Sharp, the name you forgot, the brand you thought went quiet. But in 2026, they listen deeper than the rest. No flash, no false brightness, just a panel built with care. A picture calibrated for humans, not algorithms. And sound that doesn't scream but stays. Sharp made a TV that doesn't want to be noticed.
It wants to be part of your life. And in a year full of noise, that kind of presence is rare. It was never about pixels. It was always about presence. They want one that's smart enough to work. Before you go, hit that subscribe button. We don't just review, we expose. From the hype to the hidden failures to the tricks brands hope you'll never question. So hit like, tap subscribe, and join thousands of smart shoppers who already know. Smart spending starts with asking smarter questions.